Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today we are trying out some new lip products from Charlotte Tilbury. So she did release a brand new shade in her Big Lip Plumpgasm gloss, and she also released some new lip cheat contour duos. Now these are really interesting because they are dual-ended liners. Each one of these liners has a sculpt end and a fill end, and there are 4 different shades. I have mine in fair and medium. I was looking at the others as well, but they are definitely very deep and looked very brown, which I just don't go for. So I did pick up fair and medium. And then the new Big Lip Plumpgasm gloss is in the shade NUDES Diamonds. She also re-released her NUDES face palette, which originally came out, I believe, about 3 years ago, I think in 2022. Now mine is broken, so it's hard for me to hold it up, but this is what it looks like. And I did use it today, so I will talk you through how I like to use this palette. I do want to mention the broken shades are by no fault of the palette. I dropped it. I do that. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to save a lot of the product. Now, because the face palette is just a re-release, I'll first talk you through how I like to use this, and I'll also pop up those swatches so you can see you get a contour shade, a bronzer shade, a blush, and a highlight. The blush is definitely much more of a glowier blush. The bronzer and contour are definitely very matte, and they are in this more baked chalet formula. So while they're pigmented, they're not overly pigmented, and I do find that these formulas work best with natural hairbrushes. I find that if you go in with synthetic, it just doesn't pick up as much product with these. So that's just something I wanted to mention. So I like the contour shade, and I kind of just did a bit of a bronzer with that. And then the bronzer shade I don't use as much because I just find it to be a little too deep for my skin. I went in with the peach blush, and I do think it looks really pretty on the skin. It is a little bit more glowy than I typically prefer from my blushes, but I do still think it looks really pretty. And you can see I had an absolute mess every time I tried to show you what shade I was using. They just kept falling out and were not salvageable. And then I did go in with the highlight. Now the highlight is almost too deep for me, but I do think that going in with a really light hand, it does end up looking really pretty, and it does end up working quite well. So if you originally wanted to get your hands on the face palette and maybe missed out the first time, you can get it now. I know there's a bit of a discrepancy. It wasn't available everywhere when I checked the first time, but I will of course leave it linked down below if I find it in stock still. So you can shop this if you are looking for it. I do have a code with Charlotte Tilbury. I think it's a one-time use, but you can save 15%. So if you are looking to shop anything, I will just leave that code down below as well. Now let's get into the lip products. So first I'll start with the Big Lip Plumpgasm gloss. Now this is a formula she released for the first time last year, and she came out with 2 different shades. She came out with fair medium and medium deep. I have fair medium, and this actually lives in my purse. I love this gloss so much. I love the color of it. The packaging is beautiful. I absolutely love the quilted cap to this. It also smells really good. It definitely smells like vanilla. It's a very, very lovely scent. This is a more intense, plumper formula though, so if you do not like really stingy glosses or really stingy plumpers, you'll definitely want to pass on this because it is one of the more painful ones that I've ever tried. However, this is very juicy. It's very plumping. It makes your lips look so wet, but it's not at all sticky. And there's something about the color of this that is just so even. It just looks beautiful. Again, this lives in my purse, which tells you right away how much I actually like this. I was thinking of doing a video of products I love, but I shouldn't because I don't love painful lip plumpers, but I love how this makes my lips look so much that it lives in my purse and I reach for it all the time. Now, the new shade of the gloss is in NUDES Diamonds. So these glosses do have a 12-month shelf life and are made in Italy. And again, they're a fantastic formula. This shade actually comes in gold packaging. So I actually love the packaging on this one too. It's the exact same as the original, just in this beautiful gold. The scent is also the same. It's definitely this very sweet vanilla. I do love the scent so much. And then the shade itself, I'll pop up a quick swatch. It looks very peachy and very sparkly. So let's try on the gloss. It looks very milky and peachy initially. Love the applicator. it just really allows you to cover that ground and get into that corner. This is definitely one you don't want to get in your mouth like I just did. Now, I actually like this shade so much more than I thought I would. I thought that this shade would be way too peachy, and I figured part of the reason why I like the original is because of the color, and while I do love that color, this also looks beautiful. It definitely feels the same on the lips. I'm already getting that cooling sensation that's going to get pretty intense, and then it's going to settle into pins and needles. That's what this formula does. Now, this shade ends up looking like kind of like a very milky peachy shade when you first put it on, but it sheers out to this really just nude gloss. But the shimmer in it, it's not overly sparkly. You don't actually feel the shimmer particles, but they really give the lips that really reflective look, and it just makes them look so extra shiny. I do like this gloss a lot. I can definitely see myself throwing this one in my purse as well. I can see myself wearing this one on its own, but also over a liner, which we have some of today. But I do think this is a really, really pretty shade as well. Okay, let me take this off and then we can talk about these new liners. All right, so these new Lip Cheat Contour liners, like I said, I have shade Fair and Medium. There is also 2 more shades. I believe there is Tan and Deep. These have a 24-month shelf life and are made in the Czech Republic. The description on these says they are expertly color matched 90s nude shades. These are also supposed to last 6 hours and help prevent lipstick feathering. So these are nude lip liners for instantly wider, fuller, and defined looking lips. These 2-in-1 lip pencils mimic the appearance of natural shadows to emphasize and sculpt the look of lip contours, giving you a 90s inspired supermodel nude lips. Each nude lip liner has 2 high pigmented lip contour shades that are expertly color matched to create natural looking lip definition. The powdery sculpt shade is a darker hue designed to outline the lips with a shadow effect. Then the creamy fill shade is a lighter hue designed for all over lip color. So it does look like we're getting something for everyone here. It does say that you can line and then fill, and then you can put a lipstick over top, you can put a gloss over top, or you can just wear them as is. This is what the liners look like. So let's quickly look at the swatches. First off, pulling up the fair shade. So on the bottom, we have the sculpt side, and on the top we have the fill. And the fair duo is definitely much more pinky leaning. In contrast, the medium liner is definitely leaning much more brown nude. Again, on the bottom, we have the sculpt shade, and on top we have the fill side. All right, so let's try on these liners, and then once we do that, I will show you a couple of swatch comparisons with some of the other Charlotte Tilbury lip liners that I have. But let's start with the medium duo because I do want to wear fair for the rest of the day. So we'll start with the sculpt end, like she recommends. I did notice swatching these out, the 2 ends definitely feel different from one another. Okay, that is a good sculpt shade. Definitely very nude. Okay, so that is the medium sculpt shade. It's definitely leaning a little bit brown, definitely reminds me quite a bit of Iconic Nude. All right, so let's go into the fill side of the medium pencil. Okay, so that is the medium pencil, and I feel like there's not a huge contrast between the 2 shades once they're applied to the lips. I feel like they do look pretty similar, but I can definitely see that more sculpted, contoured effect. I definitely feel like I've got a very precise line, but because there isn't such a huge change in the color, yeah, I do feel like it makes my lips look a little bit more sculpted. I definitely think it looks really, really nice. You can definitely see how the shades work together. Let me just pop the gloss on top so I can show you what that looks like as well. Okay, so that's really nice. I will say that the 2 ends of the liner pencil definitely feel different. Like I was saying, I do feel like the sculpt end feels a little bit dry, but not dry, if that makes sense. The fill side, I do think reminds me the most of the original lip liners in her range. They're just very creamy. There's a lot of slip to them. The sculpt end is also quite creamy, but drier than the other side. She kind of describes it in the product description as being powdery. I don't really know that they're powdery, but I do think they're creamy, just a little bit more stiff than the fill side. All right, so that is the medium contour pencil with the gloss on top. I do think that looks great. Let me take this off and we can get into the fair shade. All right, going into that fair pencil. Now I will say when I was swatching this out, I was saying how the sculpt shade feels a little bit stiffer than the fill side, but still very creamy. And when I was swatching this out, I was barely applying any pressure and the end still broke off on me. So they are still a very soft pencil. So going in with the sculpt. All right, so that is the sculpt shade on the fair pencil. Going into the other side for the fill. That's really, really pretty. Oh, that's super pretty. That is definitely a combo that I would go for every day. I love a good pinky nude lip combo. And same thing with this one. I don't find a lot of contrast between the fill and the sculpt shades, but there is just enough of a contrast to give me a little bit of a sculpted look. I think that looks really, really nice. And again, even though it's a pencil, it still was very creamy and easy to fill in the lips. I'll pop that gloss on top so you can also see what that looks like. I am wiping off my applicator after I do this, by the way, just so I don't contaminate the shade. Okay, I love that combo, and what that actually ends up reminding me of is the fair shade in the original plumping gloss. That is really, really pretty though. What a great combo. So between the two pencils, I definitely prefer the fair side. I kind of figured I would, but I definitely prefer the fair. I do just love a good rosy nude shade, but I do think the medium shade is beautiful as well. Definitely leaning more into those browns if that's what you like. But for me, I'm really, really loving the pink. Now, I did want to discuss the shades because I was thinking when I was using the medium pencil that it was reminding me a lot of Iconic Nude, and I'll pop up those swatches as well, and you can see the shades are pretty similar. So I know a lot of people love that pencil as well. And for the fair side, the fill shade reminded me so much of the original Pillow Talk. So I will pop up those swatches and you can see they are very, very similar. They are a basic pinky nude. I feel like on my lips, Pillow Talk can sometimes pull a little bit peachy, but swatch side by side, those shades are very, very similar. And then the sculpt side on the fair pencil reminded me a lot of Super Size Me. So looking at those swatches, you can see that they are pretty similar as well. And then I've gone ahead and actually just swatched them on the back of my hand. So over here, I have the new Duo. Over here, I have Pillow Talk and Super Size Me. So they're not identical, but they are very, very close. So if you have Pillow Talk and Super Size Me, you'll be able to get a very similar effect with the fair pencil. Now, I do think that Super Size Me pulls a little bit more rosy, but I think the tones between the two shades, if you put them on the lips, I don't think you're really going to notice much of a difference. But overall, I do really, really like these duos, and I can see myself reaching for them regularly, whether that be to do that more contoured effect or even to just use them each as lip liners, because although the sculpt shades are a little bit more stiff, a little bit more dry, and the fill shades are a little bit more creamy, like I said, the fill shades remind me a lot of the liners that are in her pre-existing range. So you could think about these each as a duo, or you could think of it as, in my case, 4 different lip liner shades. And I can see myself using them as both. I can see myself using the contour together, but also as just 4 different lip liner shades. I really like these and I am really, really excited about them. The gloss, again, I really do like this gloss formula, but if you hate a stingy gloss, definitely stay away from this. I just like it because I love how full and juicy it makes my lips look. This new shade in particular, the shimmer, I love that you don't actually feel the glitter particles, but it really does bounce the light off your lips in the most beautiful way. I think it's really, really gorgeous. I'm surprised how much I like this, but I really do. And if you were wanting to get your hands on these super nudes, this palette was never a favorite of mine. I just don't go for these shades as often, but I do still think it's a beautiful palette and the quality is still phenomenal. And this is a 3-year-old palette and the quality is still great. So if you're wanting this one and these are your colors, then I will of course leave everything linked down below. You can of course use my code as well. I love the gloss, but again, it's going to be a very specific audience. The liners, I also love them. But if you do already have a lot of Charlotte Tilbury liners, you might be able to create a very, very similar effect already. So just keep that in mind. But if you are wanting these and you don't already have a lot of her liners, I definitely recommend these. They're beautiful. But that is it for me today. Let me know all of your thoughts down below. Were you thinking of purchasing these? Did you change your mind? Let me know all of your thoughts. I love hearing from you guys so, so much. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!